As Father's Day is here, obviously we're going to have a Father's Day sermon. But I want to take a look at two guys, two brothers, Jacob and Esau. And every time we look at Jacob and Esau in Genesis chapter, we're going to look at Genesis chapter 33. We always favor Jacob. And look how great Jacob was. Yeah, he was a liar, he was a cheat. But we look at Jacob as some great example. And we look at Esau as some horrible human being. Like, oh, Esau. And there's a reason we don't name children Esau. There's not a lot of Esau's running around. There's a lot of Jacobs running around. But if you name a child Esau, you're like, huh? Esau? Okay. But the reality is, today we're going to look at Esau and how he is an example. And you know what? He was a father. Fathers, we are examples. People look to us. Our children look to us. Grandfathers, your grandchildren look to you. We are the example. And today we're going to look at a lesson from two brothers. Their example to their children. So turn with me to Genesis chapter 33. Genesis chapter 33. Before we open, let's have a word of prayer. Father God, as we open the Scripture, Lord, I pray that you give me the words to speak, give us a clarity of thought, and help us to apply your message to our lives, Lord, that we may leave here living for you. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. So a little bit of background to where we are in the story of Jacob and Esau. See, Jacob stole from Esau his birthright for a bowl of stew when they were younger. He came out from the field, he was hungry, and Jacob goes, oh, I made some stew, it smells good. Brother, oh, it does, oh, it's so good, can I have some? Sure, if you give me the right of the firstborn, give me your special blessing, I want the inheritance. And if you do that, I'll give you this bowl of stew. Esau goes, sounds good to me. Hand over the stew. I need some good stew. Well, later in their lives, their father Isaac was about to die. And what did Jacob do? His mom and he got together. He dressed up like a goat. His parent Esau's quite hairy. And snuck in and deceived Isaac and got a blessing. And then his brother wanted to kill him. Esau wanted to kill Jacob, so Jacob fled. And in his wanderings, he got married. Then he got married again because the father-in-law deceived him. So he married the wrong daughter. I don't know how that happens. All of a sudden, Katie's dad had a pretty woman in front of me. I think I would notice, oh, this isn't Katie. Jacob did it. Regardless, he ended up 14 years working as a shepherd. And he had family. And he grew, his wealth grew. He had a relationship with God. And now, after many years, he's going back. And he's going to meet his brother. And that's where we pick up. In Genesis chapter 3, verses 1 through 3, Jacob sees Esau. It's finally happened. After years and years, Jacob left in the fear of his life. And now, here it is. He sees Esau. And what does he see with Esau in verse 1? This is Genesis chapter 33, verses 1 through 3. In verse 1, Jacob sees an army. There are many men with Esau. And so you have to put yourself in Jacob's shoes. There's his brother Jacob's like, he's going to kill me. And who does he see? There's Esau in front of an army. Uh-oh, it's getting rough. It's going to get bad. And so Jacob plans accordingly. In verses 1 and 2, he splits his family in half. He goes, you guys go on this side of the river. You guys go over here. So that way, if we're attacked, at least half of us will be safe. So let's get ready. It's going down. And then, what does Jacob do in verse 3? He bows down before his brother. His brother's coming toward him. He bows on the ground. And it's a show of humility. He's saying, I'm your servant, Esau. I'm not over you. You're over me. And he's hoping that by doing this, Esau would forgive him and find favor in his eyes. So what happens in Genesis 33, verses 4 through 7, Esau sees Jacob. See, he knew Jacob was coming, but now here's Esau. He sees Jacob off in the distance. And what does he do? Remember, he's in the head of an army. He runs to greet his brother. Not with a sword in his hand, but with open arms. And he embraces Jacob. And he says, "Who are all these people with you? Are these my nieces and nephews?" Jacob was ready for a battle. He was ready to duke it out with his brother. Esau was looking for a family reunion. You can just imagine Esau running up to Jacob, and Jacob's like, and just all of a sudden, big old bear hug, kissing his neck. "Oh, I missed you." And then you see, is this my family? Is that my niece, my nephew? Is this my sister-in-law? Oh, introduce me. Tell me who these people are. Jacob must have been caught off guard. He must have been like, yeah, this is Leah, He must have been so taken off guard because he was ready for war. But Esau was ready to accept them back into the fold. And so Esau questions Jacob. In verses 8 through 11, Esau questions Jacob. Read with me verses 8 through 11 of Genesis chapter 33. It says this: "Then Esau said, 'What do you mean by all this company which I met?' And he said, Jacob said, 'These are to find favor in your sight, my lord.' But Esau said, 'I have enough, my brother. Keep what you have for yourself.' And Jacob said, 'No, please. If I now have found favor in your sight, then receive my present from my hand, insomuch as I have seen your face as though I have seen the face of God, and that you were pleased with me. Please take my blessing that is brought to you, because God has dealt graciously with me, and because I have enough.' So he urged him, and he took it." So what is going on? So Esau goes, "What do you mean by all these gifts?" And what that's talking about is in Genesis chapter 32, verses 13 through 20. Before Jacob came to meet Esau, he gave Esau some gifts. And this is what he gave him: 200 female goats and 20 male goats, 200 ewes and 200 rams, and then 200 rams, 30 milking camels, which if someone gave me a milking camel, I do not believe I would drink camel's milk. I'd be hard pressed. I'll probably try camel cheese, but I don't know if I can drink camel's milk. But then with 30 babies, and then 40 cows, 10 bulls, 20 female donkeys, and 10 babies. And what Jacob did is he spread them out, and so that as one group came, they would say, "There's more coming behind me." And as the last group came, he said, "Your brother Jacob's coming behind me." And so basically what was happening is Esau's been bombarded with gift after gift after gift after gift after gift. And then finally, he's like, "There's a lot of livestock. Your brother's coming." See, Jacob was appeasing Esau. Jacob was like, "You know what? I need to smooth the way because I stole from my brother." And in Genesis 32, verse 13 through 20, it says that these are the blessings that God gave Jacob, and Jacob is giving it. Why? In verse 33:11, it says this. In 33 verse 11, it says that, "Please take my blessing that is brought to you, because God has dealt gracious with me, and I have enough." See, what was going on is we have to remember that Jacob stole Esau's blessings. He stole the birthright, and he stole the blessing of God. And Jacob is trying to give some of it back, saying, "This is what God has blessed you with. You deserve some of this, because I stole it from you." He's trying to right a wrong. But what does Esau say? Esau says, no thank you. I don't need it. Verse 11, Jacob once again says, please take this blessing. It is really your blessing that I stole from you. But Esau says no. And this is interesting because once again Esau is rejecting the blessings of God. In Genesis 25:24, Esau rejected the birthright. And then in Genesis 27, he lost the blessings. And then in chapter 33, verse 11, Jacob once again is saying, take the blessings. And Esau says, I don't need it. I have you. And that's enough. So verses 12 through 18, the brothers part way. In verses 12 through 18, they have departing of ways. Up to this point, Jacob was ready for battle. Esau was ready for forgiveness. Jacob appeased Esau. And now Esau says, come with me. Esau says, let's go together. Let's go over this way to Seir. Jacob says, I can't. Verse 12, Jacob says, I can't go. I have children. You know how children are. They're slow. Have you ever walked with a child? That was great. There's your real story. They're slow. They have little feet. And then they see a butterfly. And then the butterfly lands on the bush. They're not the fastest people in the world. Jacob goes, I can't go with you. I have children. Then he goes, I also have animals. If I push them too hard, they're going to die. They need to eat. They need to drink. It's going to slow us down. We're so slow, we'll just catch up with you. And Esau says, oh, brother, let me send you some of my soldiers to help you out. Let me send you help. And Jacob goes, no, we'll catch up to you. So Esau leaves. He goes, all right, brother, I'll see you in Seir. And he goes off. What does Jacob do? Jacob goes in the exact opposite direction. So let's pick up the story, verse 16 of chapter 33. It says this. So Esau returned that day on his way to Seir, and Jacob journeyed to Succoth, built himself a house, and made booths for his livestock. Therefore the name of the place is called Succoth. Jacob went in the exact opposite direction of Zaire. Zaire's over here. There's Esau. Jacob goes, okay, we're going over here. He lied to his brother. A bold-faced lie. There's nothing other than that. If I say, David, I'm going to fellowship hall. I'll be there in a minute. And I go hang out in the Sunday school room, that's a lie. Jacob had no intention of going to Zaire. He still had a grudge against his brother Esau. He was afraid of his brother Esau, most likely. But he went in the opposite direction. And so, in conclusion, this is what we have. This is what we have at the end of this story. Esau forgave his brother. He did not hold a grudge. He did not bring up the past. He didn't hold his past against him. And he said, take your blessings back. Take your blessings back. Take your blessings back. I don't need them. I just need you. Esau forgave his brother and wanted a reconciliation. He was satisfied with just being reconciled. Now Jacob, on the other hand, he saw appeasement. In Genesis 32, verse 17 to 20, Jacob sought to appease his brother. He did wrong. He was in the wrong, so he sought to appease his brother. He also sought protection. He said, you know what? My brother's going to be mad at me. I'm going to protect my family. He sought to humble himself. He bowed down before Esau. and he sought unification. Maybe I'll find favor in his eyes. Verse 32:20 says, I'm doing all this, giving him all this livestock, so I can find favor in his eyes. See, they both wanted the same thing. Forgiveness and reconciliation. Jacob, being the offender, sought to appease his brother. He sought to protect his family. He sought to humble himself. He knew what he did was wrong. His brother just sought to forgive. Esau said, I just want to forgive you. I don't need these gifts to forgive you. I just want to forgive you. I want to be reconciled with my brother. So how do we apply this to our lives today? How does this apply to you? Well, if I offend Kevin, I don't have 200 donkeys. I can borrow a donkey from Tony. I have 10 goldfish. I can send Ellie with 10 goldfish for you. And then I can send Grace with a dog. And I'll let you eat my dog. That's more of a curse than a blessing. But the reality is, I don't need to do that. If I offend Kevin, I might realize that I did wrong. So maybe I need to send him a card saying, hey, I'm really sorry. I messed up. I might need to appease him by approaching him with humility in my heart, saying, I messed up. Forgive me. Sometimes, when I really messed up, which I know this is going to be hard for you to believe that I offend Katie. I know that kind of blows everyone's mind that I might make my wife mad. But if I really make her mad, and I know I've done wrong, you know what? I know what kind of meal she likes. And so maybe I need to go buy a salmon fillet and get some mushrooms and do some stuffed mushrooms and salmon and say, I messed up, Katie. Please forgive me. She doesn't need the meal for me to be forgiven. But it appeases the anger. It's a gesture of love. And when we offend someone, sometimes we need to show a gesture of love and humility. And go, please forgive me. Now, when we are the one who's been offended, we need just to forgive. We don't need gifts. We shouldn't require a gift. We don't need to bring up the past. We don't need to rehash what happened. Katie doesn't go, well, John, I'm going to forgive you, but this is what I'm going to forgive you for. This is what you did wrong to me. No. See, if we're the one who's been offended, we don't need to bring up the past. We don't need to hold anything against them. We should simply forgive them and seek reconciliation. We simply should forgive and forget. Seek reconciliation. Don't look for anything else. Just say, I forgive you. It's done. It's forgotten about. You are forgiven. The offender, we don't need to buy forgiveness. We need to humble ourselves, apologize, make restitution if necessary, and seek reconciliation. Too many times in relationships, what we do is we don't forgive. We say we forgive them, but we'll never talk to that person again. They did me wrong. I'm done with that person. Oh, I've forgiven them, but they need to sit on that side of the church. I'm going to sit on this pew, they can sit on that pew. When it's time to shake each other's hands, they'll get a nod. And that nod is saying, I remember what you did. That's not forgiveness. We need to forgive is saying, I forget what you did. I'm not going to bring that up. I seek to be reconciled with you. The proverbial hugging your brother's neck and saying, it's so good to see you. Now the offender, we're not innocent. We need to say, I'm sorry, I messed up. It was my fault. We need to be humble. What it boils down to is both parties coming to themselves saying, as Christ forgave me, I'm going to forgive you. And that's hard to do. And fathers, this is our legacy to our children and the people in this church. When they see us forgive, it teaches them how to forgive. When they see us, our kids, our grandkids, our wives, our friends, when they see us hold a grudge, they say, it's okay for me to hold a grudge. Well, that's what my dad did. There's a guy in our church, growing up, he was our puppet director. We had a puppet team. We built little puppets and went around on our knees and doing our puppets. And his name was Mr. McPherson. And he was a wonderful man. And my dad had our driveway sealed. My dad, that driveway was his pride and joy. And many a summer, I was out there with this big old stick, smoothing it out. Well, my dad had it done professionally over here. And it was beautiful. Well, Mr. McPherson came by our house. And he parked his truck, came in, a great visit. And then when he was leaving, before the car started moving, he turned the wheel. And then he backed up. There was a little tire divot for years in that driveway. He never fixed that little tire divot. It sat there as a reminder of how Mr. McPherson ruined that driveway. My dad never forgave him. And he made sure he remembered by seeing it every time. It always rained, it always filled up with a little bit of water. With shoveling, there would always be a little piece of ice there. My dad never forgave him for that. I remember that. Is that the legacy I want my kids to have? That someone wronged me, and I held on to it to show them that that's okay, that's the way to do it? Fathers, we need to be better than that. We need, ready for this? We need to be Esau's. Probably remember your pastor say to be like Esau. We need to forgive with no strings attached. We need to hug our brother's neck and say, so good that we're reconciled. That's hard to do, but it starts with humility. We need to humble ourselves and say, you are forgiven. And we can do that because Christ forgave us. We are the example. For the rest of the church, we need to do the same thing. We need to be Esau's. We need to forgive people. Now, if we're the Jacobs in this story, if we're the ones who have offended, we need to seek reconciliation. We need to apologize. We need to humble ourselves and say, I was wrong, and I'm sorry. And that's hard to do. We're prideful people. But we need, if we're the ones who offended, we need to say, I am sorry. Please forgive me. When we do that, we are following Christ's example. Are you willing to be Esau? Men, are we willing to lead the example by being Esau's? In a minute, Katie's going to come and play Oh, How I Love Jesus. And while she's playing, I want you to think, is there someone that you need to forgive in your life? Is there someone you need to forgive? And on the other side of the coin, the question is there someone you need to apologize to? Is there someone you need to apologize to? If there is, do it. Don't waste time. Don't say, well, I'm going to forgive them in my mind. It's easy to say, oh, I forgive them. But then that person will never know that you forgave them. So as Katie plays, as you bow your head in personal prayer, ask yourself, God, is there someone I need to forgive? And then, God, is there someone I need to apologize to? Let's pray.